The Florida Panthers, despite being outplayed for most of this game, find a way to win against the Toronto Maple Leafs. On today's show, we'll discuss the win and whether this is a win to feel good about if you are the Florida Panthers.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Thursday, March 30th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez, and you can follow me on Twitter at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on Twitter and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. Yes, we are now on Instagram. And make sure to also follow the YouTube page and subscribe and send in your screenshot of your subscription for your chance to win 2 free tickets to the Florida Panthers versus Toronto Maple Leafs game on April 10th. Best of luck, everybody. So wow, what a comeback win for this Panthers team on Wednesday night. And you think of how the Panthers, on paper, they just look outmatched against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and it on the ice on Wednesday night, it showed for the most part in this game. I mean, let's go over like why they looked outmatched on paper. And Sam Bennett missing his 5th straight game, a surprise scratch with Sergei Bobrovsky dealing with a non-COVID related illness. He was on the ice for a morning skate, was messaging Alex Baumgartner of 5 Reasons Sports about it. He said he looked fine. And then with Paul Maurice not announcing a goaltender and Mack Guzda being called up to be the backup, it was Alex Lyon in the net against a strong Toronto Maple Leafs team. And this for the Panthers, really nervous going into this game because of course you're in the middle of a 4-game losing streak after being in a wild card spot last Monday, and you got to face up against the top dogs. But the Florida Panthers do it early. I mean, they get off to an early start, a minute into a game, a great forecheck by Eetu Luostarinen, and then teased it up for Anton Lundell for the 1-0 lead a minute into the game. First point for Anton Lundell in over 12 games. The last time he got a point was in late February, and then the physicality and the desperation for the Florida Panthers really showed when the 4-on-4 in this game with Gudis going after Bunting and then a scuffle in the neutral zone. But Alex Lyon, he stayed ready. He's a veteran in this league, despite being up in the AHL, down in the AHL, and then back in the NHL. Of course, we've spoken about how he's won the Calder championship with the Chicago Wolves last year. But you think about the opportunities for the Maple Leafs on breakaways and with the slot being so open for the Maple Leafs, and the Panthers, they were just having a hard time with their breakouts, and whether it was trying a cross ice pass to get it out of their zone, or getting the puck checked out of their stick in the neutral zone, and then they're caught out of position where the Maple Leafs were going on odd man rushes. I mean, after the second period, it was 4-0 in odd man rushes in favor of Toronto. The Florida Panthers weren't doing anything. Sasha Barkov didn't get a shot on goal until the third period. That top line was horrid for the Panthers. They were outshot as far as shots on goal. Their differential was -8 on the night for the against the Maple Leafs. Of course, you're going up against a top line of Matthews, Marner, and you have Calle Yarncrook on that line, and they were living in the slot. And of course, there were trading turnovers here and there. I mean, the Panthers at times were stealing Jake McCabe's money, and the Toronto Maple Leafs paid a hefty price to trade for Jake McCabe. But I mean, you think about Anthony Duclair, a turnover on a breakout pass, and then the Toronto Maple Leafs stay in the Florida zone, and then Alex Lyon was able to bail Anthony Duclair out very early on. I mean, you think about some of the dumb calls that the Panthers had with interference way away from the puck. I mean, Ekblad in the middle of the zone of the slot has an interference on bunting that leads to a power play chance for Toronto. And I mean, the tripping penalty that was called, the holding penalty that William Nylander tripped on Carter Verhaeghe's stick that was out of Verhaeghe's hand. It was way late. If you even saw a replay, you see the referee's hand go up way after William Nylander falls, and then they call it holding. That one I didn't get, but the Panthers, their penalty kill, they got the job done. I mean, the Panthers weren't chasing after, they weren't getting out of position on the PK, and really, despite the Toronto Maple Leafs having 5 shots on 4 power play chances, they stood tall, and Alex Lyon was the guy who got the job done. I mean, and think about how in the first period too, Alex Lyon kept losing his stick. I mean, the Leafs were crashing the net and colliding with him, and he had a big save early on where he was just on his side and still making a big save late in the first period. And you know, the 2-on-1 chances too for shorthanded. And Verhaeghe, there was one that Verhaeghe was in the offensive zone, and then he just loses track of it trying to do a drop pass, and then the Maple Leafs go on a rush, and the Leafs weren't allowing easy entries on the Panthers power play. So and despite the Florida Panthers scoring 6-on-4 late in the game, their power play was horrid throughout this one. The zone entries were just hard to come by for the Panthers. And let's also think about the game-changing moment for this Panthers team. I mean, despite being up 1-0, I wasn't feeling good about this game. I mean, 14-7 shot on goal advantage, doubling the shots. The Panthers didn't get their first shot on goal until 10 minutes into the second period. So it was just it was a scary place to be in for this Panthers team going into the midway point of the second period, only having 7 shots on goal. And you think about the first goal where the Panthers are pulled out of position, and then TJ Brodie shoots from the slot, from the point, and then Zachary Aston Reese is there with no white jerseys around him to deflect it in, and the Maple Leafs go 2-on-1 less than a minute later to score a goal. But Paul Maurice challenges for offside, and in the middle of that review, Paul Maurice is livid and giving it to his team on the Panthers bench. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was, I believe, the moment that really changed this game for this Panthers team. And it really didn't wake up right away. I mean, the Panthers went to the box like not even a minute after that, with Ryan Lomberg having an interference on Morgan Riley, and that was stupid penalty by Ryan Lomberg, but they still killed it. And they still found a way to contain the second best power play unit in the NHL, and the review was called back for offside with and let's also not forget that the Toronto Maple Leafs had a penalty shot. Zachary Aston Reese had a breakaway chance, and Brandon Montour slashes them, and then they call penalty shot, and then Zachary Aston Reese is unable to score for the Toronto Maple Leafs to make it a 2-1 game. Could have had a big opportunity for the Leafs there, and just the Panthers, I don't know. They might have won, but it feels like it was more of the Toronto Maple Leafs losing this more than the Florida Panthers winning it as well. And that's a good way to segue to segment number 2, where we'll talk about whether it's a win to feel good about if you are the Florida Panthers. We're going to discuss that next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. But first, we're going to tell you all about Built Bar. And are you looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories? Then you got to try Built Bar. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're covering 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I'm not sure how Built does it, but they taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. Now you don't have to wait around for to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars at Built.com. Now you can get it at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today. Walk to the pharmacy section and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, and coconut puffs. Or if you're close to Sam's Club, get a 13-bar box of our hit flavors, brownie, batter, and churro. You can thank me later. Segment number 2 here on this Thursday, March 30th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, as the Florida Panthers are coming off a 3-2 win over the Toronto Maple Leafs. And like we spoke about, I mean, the power play was not encouraging for the Florida Panthers. They broke a little bit of a drought going back to after the game against the Rangers. And, going into the third period, where did Michael Bunting maybe have a soccer type of flop in the slot when Ekblad interfered him? Yeah, I would say so. And then going into that third period with a minute and 54 left on the PK, tied at 1. And shorthanded chances. The Florida Panthers had their shorthanded chances. I mean, Eric Staal and Eetu Luostarinen had one where Eric Staal had a spinorama pass to Eetu Luostarinen, but just misses the net. Aleksander Barkov had a chance, shorthanded, and misses the net. Like we spoke about, Aleksander Barkov didn't get a shot on goal till the third period. And you're thinking, Captain, where are you during all this? That's what I was wondering as well throughout the third period. I mean, you think about so many chances for the Maple Leafs to just pull this away. I mean, big save on William Nylander shortly after the shorthanded chance by Eetu Luostarinen that mixed, and then a swing and a miss by John Tavares right in the low slot. And this was also a game of missed opportunities for the Maple Leafs too. I mean, Brandon Montour, was another one who had a shorthanded chance but misses the net. Let me actually look up real quick how many shorthanded shots the Florida Panthers had. Shot attempts. Let me see. They had 4 shot attempts shorthanded, and let's see how many of them made it to the goal. 2. Only 2 of them got to the net. That's according to naturalstattrick.com. And I was really impressed by the play of Eetu Luostarinen, and it was more than just that goal by Anton Lundell. I mean, there was one that he stripped TJ Brody to set up Gudis back into the point, and still trying to create something in traffic around Ilya Samsonov. And I mean, the Panthers do have they do have experience going up against Ilya Samsonov going back to last year's series against the Capitals. But they know this guy. They know the scouting report for the players who weren't here last season. So, but just pucks weren't going to the net really until the latter part of the second period, and really at times it wasn't during the third period. I mean, and when you think about how when the Panthers were down 2-1. I mean, unable to clear the zone. Matthews is fed by Marner, and then from the high slot, he just one times it past Lyon. And at that point, you're thinking, man, Alex Lyon has done everything he could have for the Panthers, and the Panthers like they were in the first period, unable to clear the zone, and then it makes them pay. And the Maple Leafs, they were just closing in on rushes for the Panthers and just eliminating them. And Mitch Marner, he went to the box twice, and both times when he got out of the box, he's on a breakaway just as soon as he comes out of the penalty box. So the Panthers, a little bit of a lack of awareness really at times during this game. I mean, and then you think about even before the power play, Carter Verhaeghe having a big chance with the net open, but thankfully for the Panthers, Mark Giordano hooks Carter Verhaeghe. They get a power play, and then Paul Maurice sends in the extra skater, pulling Alex Lyon, and then puck off the boards. Verhaeghe, which even though he didn't get an assist, and he had one of the worst games I've seen of him as a Panther, what he was able to do to draw those two Maple Leafs players to get when he gets it back to the point, and then when Aaron Ekblad one times it to deflect it off Sam Reinhart, that's Sam Reinhart was in that position because Carter Verhaeghe was drawing those two Leafs defenders towards him. So it gave Sam Reinhart that opportunity for that redirection past Ilya Samsonov. And honestly, I hope Brooks Koepka was watching that that one-timer by Aaron Ekblad, and hopefully maybe has a little bit more respect for number 5 on the ice. I mean, I was discussing on Twitter today that I hope somebody comes to the next live event, which is actually in Florida, actually on Friday at Orange County National. And I hope someone wears an Aaron Ekblad jersey or jersey and maybe has like a cone to represent Brooks if Brooks doesn't play well in the next live event. So that's a little bit of my soapbox when it comes to golf, as someone who is a golf person and who's worked in golf media for 8 years. But I hope Brooksy was watching, because he does like to pick. He does like creating enemies. Just ask Bryson DeChambeau. But with that opportunity to tie the game, I mean, man, the Panthers were being outplayed, and still this game was still tied at 2. And you think about multiple chances that Auston Matthews had in overtime. I mean, he had one where the Alex Lyon had a pad save. Anthony Duclair loses track of the puck, which is a dangerous place to be in when you're right on the blue paint. And then Auston Matthews has another opportunity where Alex Lyon has a glove save, and it was just a time of exhaling at that point too for this Panthers team when Alex Lyon was making that type of save on Auston Matthews. And let's not forget that Auston Matthews is a year removed from a 60-goal season. So and Auston Matthews isn't anywhere close, but if this is Auston Matthews' floor, this is still a very effective Auston Matthews. And then Aleksander Barkov left his best for last, even though he didn't have a good game himself. And on that rush with Brandon Montour that resulted in the game winner, the goal. And then that one was that goal for Brandon Montour, the record for most points by a Panthers defenseman in a single season, with 63 passing Keith Yandle, and just finding a way. And honestly, I don't feel good about the win. Not going to lie. Because if you play like that for most of the game against most teams in the NHL, you're going to find yourself on the losing end. And the Florida Panthers were bailed by an offside penalty shot not being converted, and missed chances for the Maple Leafs. 2 points is 2 points. And honestly, I don't care that it's an overtime win, because with the Islanders winning, you're not going to catch them. And you own the tiebreaker when it comes to regulation wins over the Pittsburgh Penguins, who lost last night or Tuesday night because it's dropping on Thursday morning against the Detroit Red Wings. You just care about the 2 points for the Panthers and all. And just, they found a way. And the Jameson Olive of FloridaPanthers.com tweeted that the Cats were playing "Oh, I Just Can't Wait to Be King" from the Lion King in the locker room before the media went in. And DJ Brandon Montour, knowing the occasion, being appropriate when it came to this win for the Panthers. I mean, snaps the 4-game losing streak. Alex Lyon stands tall for the Panthers. Lundell gets his first point, and the penalty kill was perfect for this Panthers team. And that's all you can ask for, is the 2 points for this team. And you sometimes have to count your lucky stars, and sometimes and the truth is, the Cats have a pulse. Are their playoff chances still are their playoff chances high at this moment? No, not necessarily, but they have a pulse, and cats do have multiple lives, and it's proving so with this NHL team. So crazy to think, crazy to believe that the Panthers are still very well in this race. In segment number 3, we're going to continue the conversation on tonight's win with the Florida Panthers defeating the Toronto Maple Leafs on the road. We are going to discuss the Florida Panthers having a quick turnaround as they will be heading to Montreal on Thursday night. We're going to discuss this more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. But first, we're going to tell you all about FanDuel Sportsbook. And the tournament is heating up. There's no better place to get in on the action than at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's up to $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just go to FanDuel.com and sign up today to claim your no-sweat first bet. Then you can wager on everything from the money line, point spreads, to which team will be cutting down the net. That's all in the app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. So don't miss out on your shot at a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/locked-on to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. Third and final segment here on this Thursday, March 30th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, where the Florida Panthers defeat the Toronto Maple Leafs by a final score of 3-2 in overtime. And this was the Florida Panthers' first win on the road in Scotiabank Arena since February 3rd of 2020. What happened in that game exactly? I don't know. Mark Pysyk scores the first 2 goals, the hybrid. The Florida Panthers were down 3-1, score 4 unanswered, no Sasha Barkov. Pysyk gets the empty netter to seal the game for the Cats right before COVID hit. And it's been a long time, over 3 years for this Panthers team to pick up a big road win in Toronto. And you know what? If you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, yeah, you lost, but you still gained ground on the Tampa Bay Lightning, and you're one step closer to securing the second spot in the Atlantic, which the Boston Bruins are likely gonna clinch the President's Trophy by the weekend, which they do play the Penguins on Saturday afternoon, right before the Florida Panthers take on the Columbus Blue Jackets. But not to get too much ahead of myself, but going back to the race, the Pittsburgh Penguins providing the Florida Panthers more life as they were down 3-0 on Tuesday night against Detroit. They scored three unanswered, where two of them were on the power play, the same power play, which was 5-on-3 for the Penguins in favor of the Red Wings. Derek Lalonde gets a game misconduct on a challenge of goaltender interference, which it was not goaltender interference. Nedeljkovic's pad went past the goal, and it was a good goal by Pittsburgh. But again, what is goaltender interference? A question that a lot of us don't know. And the Pittsburgh Penguins, they'll be at home on Thursday night against the Nashville Predators, who got a big win on the road against the Boston Bruins. Brad Marchand spoke after the game about how he didn't like the performance, that they got too comfortable. And the Nashville Predators have something to play for. The Winnipeg Jets lose 3-0 on the road against the San Jose Sharks on Tuesday night, which means Nashville still has a chance to make it in that last wild card spot in the Western Conference. They're kind of the Western Conference version of the Panthers. Maybe less talented, even though the Panthers did get swept by the Preds, but that's neither here nor there. But think about desperation for the Predators going into PPG Paints Arena on Thursday night while the Panthers go out and play against the Montreal Canadiens, a team that you have owned, averaging over 7 goals a game in each of the 3 matchups, and scoring 7 goals in the first period last go round. And last game between these two teams is not your typical hockey game. And that's just one that you just throw it away. And it's not normal for that type of game to happen in any NHL setting. So just and the confidence that the Panthers must have going into this one. You pick up a big road win, and the last thing you need is a big letdown on the road at the Bell Center on Thursday night. And honestly, whether it's Alex Lyon starting, Mack Guzda, or even if Sergei Bobrovsky is feeling better, which the Panthers are not expected to have a morning skate on Thursday due to the second end of a back-to-back, this is the last back-to-back of the season for the Panthers, hard to believe. And tomorrow is game number 76. The Panthers, there's no excuses now to lose this against the Montreal Canadiens and then finishing off against the Columbus Blue Jackets. You got off to a horrid start, letting 3 power play goals against the Ottawa Senators. Now you have a chance to salvage the road trip. Doesn't mean, again, this doesn't necessarily guarantee that the Panthers make it. They're still not in control of their destiny. What they can control is picking up a win against a team that you have dominated and that you have blown out of the building 3 times this year, including the first time where you got 8 power play goals against the Canadiens too. So, which was the first road matchup between these 2 teams. And then let's not forget the second one. Sasha Barkov comes back from injury. That was after the December break. And that's when the Panthers were starting to get it going. And the Panthers have bled, but they've stopped the bleeding from time to time this season. And does the 4-game losing streak come at a very horrible time of the season? Absolutely. You even get 1 point out of these last 4, or even 2. You're mostly in control of your destiny still, even if you don't pick up all the points. Crazy to think how playing from behind, not only in games but in the standings, can put you in this position, and still you're getting gifts over and over and over again. And right now, for the Panthers, it's just about taking care of the Canadiens. Your final matchup of the season. Most of Laval is on the Canadiens roster. And listen, I got to give credit to Alex Baumgartner of 5 Reasons Sports about when the Panthers lost to the Ottawa Senators. What did the Panthers do next? Just beat Toronto. Find a way. They found a way to beat Toronto despite being outplayed. I don't know. I sometimes sports doesn't make sense. And if the Panthers, by a miracle, it's still going to take a miracle to get in. You can look at this game and you can see how when the Panthers when they are opportunistic, that it can definitely and hopefully turn things around, because it's not the best roster built. Of course, the cap situation, of course, with this team, the turnover, but here you still are with 6 games to go. 7 games to go. And you still have an opportunity to just make this a race until game 82 at least. Give yourself get yourself to game 82 so that you can have that chance. That's really what I can ask for from this team, and I hope that it's probably what you guys are asking for as well when it comes to battling towards the end of the season. Despite it feeling over in the beginning of the week, I will gladly take being old takes exposed if the Florida Panthers do in fact make the postseason. On tomorrow's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, we'll be recapping the Florida Panthers versus Montreal Canadiens game. It is a Fairbanks Friday edition of the show where Nick Fairbanks will be joining me to recap the game against the Montreal Canadiens. And if you are a Marlins fan like myself, I hope that you guys enjoy multiple hours of sports as the Marlins play at 4 and the Panthers play at 7. Also, go listen to Locked On Marlins with Peter Pratt as he will be getting you ready for opening day. And it's a great time of the year. April, March, and October, 3 of the best sports months of the year. So I want to wish everybody a happy opening day and hopefully a consecutive win for this Florida Panthers team against the Montreal Canadiens. But in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. Now make your second listen game to game NHL. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NHL with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NHL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.